from the time I was about 6 years old, I guess, we had moved to Vance. And we lived there for a while. And I remember the first house we lived in was kind of out of the way over in the fields. And then we moved there a short time later to another house, which was kind of on the highway. And it was a house where the back of the house was against the ground, and then it was sloped downhill, so the front of the house was quite a bit off the ground, 3 or 4 feet off the ground, had a front porch on it. And I remember we would sell eggs, to people, neighbors and stuff like that. It was in the summertime, and of course we didn't have TV or anything like that, so we were out in the yard. My mom was out there, and we had been working on the porch because the steps was bad, and we were trying. My dad wasn't handy, but my mom was pretty handy with stuff, and we were trying to fix those steps so you could go up and down the steps. But we had taken them down altogether, and all 5 of us kids were out there. My mom. And these 3 young boys come up. They were probably teenagers at that time. I don't remember, but they had blacked their faces with a soot or something. They had some kind of disguise, hats on, black faces. And they came up there to where we were, and they demanded money because they figured we had money because my mom would sell eggs and stuff. And so we're all out in the yard.
Were they armed?
Well, I don't know. But they act like they were. Whether they were or not, I don't know. But I don't remember that part. I remember my mom said, "Well, I don't have any money out here. I'll have to go in the house and get the money." And like I say, they act like they were armed. So my mom said, "I'll have to go in the back door because I can't get up on the porch." So they stood there in the front yard, and my mom went around behind the house and went in the back door. And when she went in the door, we kept a 12-gauge sawed-off shotgun over the door. That was fairly common back in those days. That's where people kind of kept their gun. It was usually loaded and easy to get to. And when she went in the door,
like those 2 guns we have over there.
Yeah, when she went in the door, she reached up and got that shotgun, and she came out the front door. And those 3 boys, they saw that shotgun and they cut out a running. And she let them go, till they got 50, 60 yards away, and she cut down with one barrel of that shotgun, and all 3 of them hit the ground. Wham! and then they scrambled around, and then they took off even faster after that. And I never did see the boys again, and of course that was called a country-style justice, because that's the way she settled the score with them. We didn't give them any money, but she gave them a little lead to take with them on their journey.
50 yards with a saw off.
Just
probably 1 or 2 pellets touched them.
She just peppered it with it. Anyhow, that was one of the things that I remember living in that house. And shortly thereafter, in 1948, I believe it was, my dad bought the house that we lived in. Most of the time we lived in Vance. He bought it from Mr. Frank White. And it was a 4-room house. It had a front porch and a back porch. And we moved over there, and it was off the beaten path because we didn't have a road that you could, in the summertime it was kind of a wagon road. You could get in and out. But in the wintertime, you couldn't even get a wagon through there because that road would get so muddy and bad. And of course, we didn't have a car, so everywhere we went, we had to walk anyhow. And we were living among the Eatons and in the wards and people like that. That's where the property was. And we would walk to school, and we'd have to walk to the grocery store, or the country store is the only. And like I say, we didn't have a car, and my dad would catch a ride. There was always somebody that worked in the coal mines where he worked, and he worked night shift in the coal mines the whole time we were there. And he would walk over to the country store, and he would wait. They would pick him up, and then after work, it was 15, 20 miles away where he worked, and then they would drop him off at night, and he would walk in the dark to our house. And I remember those days. And when he would be gone, he would always line up work for my brother and I to do, because we farmed. We had a one mule farm, and we had one cow and some pigs, chickens, things of that nature, some fruit trees. And we would do a lot of canning, and my mom was always in charge of whatever we had to do, but my dad always laid out. He wanted us to go and work in the fields while he was gone, and do the usual chores around the house, feed the pigs and the chickens and the hogs and the mule, take care of the cow, help my mama milk and all that. But working in the field without supervision didn't work out real good. I mean, we would go and make an effort, but trying to get my brother to stay on point when he come to working in the field was kind of my responsibility, and I wasn't living up to my responsibility very good, because we might go over and work for an hour or two, and then we decided it's better to go somewhere else and play ball or do something like that. And my daddy would not be very happy when he come the next day and see how much we have not accomplished. And sometimes he'd lay a little love on us to kind of, make sure we remember the next time. But I remember one time, it was in the kind of the spring of the year, and I was a 4-H club member, and I had managed to get an allotment for cotton. And back in those days, you couldn't plant just what you wanted to. The government controlled cotton because they wanted price guarantees or something of that nature. And I never could figure that out, because I guess everybody in the country was growing cotton at that time. They thought maybe it'd be a glut on the market. So you had to go to the county agent and get an allotment, and it was based on what your needs are, how much land you had, that sort of thing. And me being a 4-H club member, I had applied and got 2 acres for a cotton allotment. And if you didn't have that allotment, when it come time to sell your cotton, it was against the law for them to buy your cotton. You had to have the allotment. So we planted the cotton that year. When it came up, the county agent would come out and measure the fields. And of course, we had planted 3 or 4 rows of cotton too much, and he insisted we had to plow those rows up. So we picked the worst rows we could find and plowed them up to be in compliance. And then the boll weevils that year was really bad. I mean, as soon as cotton bloomed and started getting, cotton bolls on them, the boll weevils would get into them, and it would just destroy your cotton crop. So you could buy cotton poison and have it sprayed on your cotton fields to kind of control the boll weevils. And of course, we didn't have any spraying, any tractors, any mechanical methods of doing that sort of thing. And what my dad would have us do was we would take a flour sack. My brother would take a flour sack, and I'd take a flour sack, and we'd buy this cotton poison. It was a powder, and we'd buy it in 100-pound sacks. And we would have to take and put, that flour sack would probably hold 10 or 15 pounds of cotton poison. And then we would take it, and then we would tie it up, and then we would shake it, and the dust would come out of the flour sack. And of course, the cotton stalks was as high as our head, because we were 8, 10 years old, 11 years old, or whatever. And that was the most toxic chemicals I have ever seen. I mean, if you got it on your skin, it burned you. If you got it in your eyes, you couldn't see. We didn't have any safety glasses or anything like that. And then the dew, my dad would make us put it on when it was dew on, because if you put it on when there's dew on the cotton plants, then the cotton poison would stick to the leaves, and then when the boll weevils would start cutting them, it would control the life of the boll weevil. So you're out there early in the morning when there's dew on, and you're shaking this sack, and it's getting back in your face. And at times I would think that I was just absolutely going to die. It was so toxic, but that wasn't given any consideration when your daddy told you had to do that. And I remember one time we had 100 pounds of that cotton poison, and he told us, he said, "Now, you boys get over and poison that cotton, because I got to go to work, and it's time to get that done, otherwise the boll weevil's going to eat the crop." So my dad went off to work, and my brother and I, we said, "Well, I just don't know if we can survive poisoning this cotton. That stuff is so toxic." And, after we'd get through poisoning cotton, we'd have to go to the creek, wash our everything, wash our hair, wash our eyes out, and everything. We'd be burning, and it was just, I'm telling you, it was about the most miserable thing you ever got into. Anyhow, what we decided to do was we decided to go and do the ends of the rows. When you come to the field, the ends of the rows, when you walk down through there, we decided to go maybe 100 feet out and we did the ends of the whole, everything, all the rows. Probably used 10 or 15 pounds of cotton poison. We did that so my dad would think we did the whole field. And then we went out in the cotton field, and we dug a hole, and we buried the rest of that cotton poison. Well, that worked. My dad didn't figure that out for a while until he was doing some plowing, and he plowed that cotton poison. And it didn't take him long to figure out what we had done, and he introduced us to the hickory switch that day.